Hi there, this is problem number 2 from page 220, I believe it is, in your Algebra 2 book. A person has 85 coins in nickels, dimes, and quarters with a combined value of $13.25. There are twice as many quarters as dimes. Part A, write a system of equations that models this situation. Okay, well, it doesn't really ask the question until we get to the bottom, part C, which is basically to find the number of each type of coin. So the question is, how many nickels, how many dimes, how many quarters are there? Ultimately, that's the question. So when we set up the equations, we want our variables to stand for the number of nickels, the number of dimes, and the number of quarters. So I'm going to let n equal the number of nickels, d equal the number of dimes, and q equal the number of quarters. It's a good idea to write down what your variables stand for. Okay, so now we're going to come up with 3 equations. We know they have 85 coins, so we're going to add the number of nickels to the number of dimes to the number of quarters, and that should add up to 85. There's one equation. We know the combined amount of money, the value. So what we're going to do is take the value of each kind of coin and multiply it by the number of coins. A nickel has a value of 5 cents, so we can do 0.05 times the number of nickels. A dime has a value of 10 cents, so we can do 0.1 times the number of dimes. And a quarter has a value of 25 cents, so we can do 0.25 times the number of quarters. And the total amount of money is $13.25. Now, if I was solving the system by hand and not with a calculator, I wouldn't want all those decimals in there, so I would multiply that whole equation by 100 on both sides. But because we're about to put these numbers in the calculator, it really doesn't matter. We can just leave it like this. Now for the third equation, it says there are twice as many quarters as dimes. So the number of quarters is equal to 2 times the number of dimes. If you're confused about setting up that equation and you don't think you quite got it right, for example, I think some people might do 2q equals d accidentally. What you can do once you write it is you can put some numbers in there and see if it makes sense. There are twice as many quarters as dimes. That means it could be 10 quarters and 5 dimes. So make up an example like that and then plug it into your equation and see if it works. Now what I'm going to do with that third equation is actually rearrange it so that it's in standard form like the other ones. So instead of that, let's write 0n minus 2d plus q equals 0. So just by subtracting 2d from both sides, we get that. Okay, so there's our system of equations. So we did part A. Part B, write the system from part A as a matrix equation. So we're going to change it into matrix form. So we have our coefficient matrix with the coefficients 1, 1, and 1 from the first equation, 0.05, 0.1, and 0.25 from the second equation, and 0, -1, and 1 from the third equation. We'll call that matrix A. And then we have our variable matrix, N, D, and Q. We'll call that matrix X. And then we have our constant matrix, 85, 1325, and 0. We'll call that matrix B. And then part C, use an inverse matrix to find the number of each type of coin. So we're going to use our calculators for this. I'll put A and B and C. And in our calculators, we're going to calculate A inverse B. That'll give us X. X represents the variables. So let's go ahead and grab a calculator, go into matrix, over to edit, select matrix A, make sure it's a 3 by 3 matrix, and then type in the numbers. Okay, take a quick peek, make sure it looks right. And then back into matrix, over to edit, and down to B. We want this to be a 3 by 1 matrix, and the numbers are 85, 13.25, and 0. Okay, now we quit to go back to the home screen, and then we go into matrix, we select matrix A, we press the inverse button, and then we go into matrix, and we select matrix B, and we compute 25, 20, 40. 25, 20, 40. What does that tell us? That tells us there were 25 nickels, 20 dimes, and 40 quarters. And then from there, of course, what you could do is calculate the amount of money and make sure it adds up to $13.25. Okay, I hope that helps.